Alright guys, this week's profile is on Hero Frog, so we'll go ahead and get right into the video. Alright guys, getting into the list, we have our 3 Substitute, our kind of standard frog engine, our 3 Swap Frog, our 2 Dupe Frog, although several team members have noted that Dupe Frog ends up getting in your hand way too often, so we might bump this up to 3. And our 2 Treeborn Frogs. And we got our Hero engine with Stratos, Ocean, Alias, Infernal Prodigy, and Malicious Edge. Our Monarchs at Caius, 3 Caius, 2 Ryza. We got some defensive cards in 3 Battle Fader, 1 Gores, and the 1-of Junk Synchron for interesting combos. Alright, into spells, we have 3 Miracle Fusion, E-Call, Rhoda, 1 for 1, all of our Brain Control cards in Enemy Controller and Brain Control itself. Got our staples in Heavy MST, the 1-of Soul Exchange, and 3 Regeki Break as extra removal and just ways to get heroes or frogs or whatever you need in the graveyard. This extra deck is going to look really similar to you if you've watched our Diva Hero list, but we got our 3 Absolute Zero, 1 Gaia, 1 Chimera Tech, Armory Arm, Catastor, Android, Bionic, Goyo Guardian, Black Rose, Stardust, Dark End, Poet Ruler, Colossal Fighter, and our Gorse token. And then last but not least, we have our side deck. We have the Super Alloy Beast Raptanus because we do side the double this time. Super Polys, 2 Crows, 2 Cybers, Unifrog, the 3 Vanity Sphere, so good in the mirror. 1 more Soul Exchange to get those Vanity Spheres out, Torrential Tribute, and double Dust Tornado. So there's not a lot of crazy things this deck does outside of the normal frog combo, so that's what I'm going to walk you guys through in case you don't know how this deck works. So basically what it revolves around is getting out Substitute and any other monster. That can be done by either summoning a monster the previous turn and protecting it, or there's a lot of things that you can do just on your turn. So you can special a Battle Fader if they attack. Similar to Gores, you can special summon a Gores. Generally those will survive. Then, you know, if you have one of those out, you summon your Substitute. Other ways is by just normal summoning any monster and using 1 for 1 to summon Substitute, or having Substitute and 1 for 1ing any other monster. Similarly, you can use things like Brain Control to get another monster, or Soul Exchange to get another monster, basically, of your opponents to use. But essentially the combo is you have your Substitute, and let's just, for ease of use, let's say that last turn you had summoned Battle Fader, right? So you have Substitute and Battle Fader. So Substitute says, and keep in mind this is not a once per turn, Substitute says you contribute 1 monster to special summon a frog monster from your deck, and the rest of the text is almost irrelevant, right? Because basically what you could do is you tribute your Battle Fader, and you summon your Swap Frog. Swap Frog's effect can send another Substitute to the graveyard because you don't want to draw these. The idea is you're deck thinning. So at this point, you know, here's your graveyard, right? Then you're going to attribute the Swap Frog with the effect of Substitute to summon another Swap Frog, activating its effect to send the other Substitute. Substitute effect to tribute off the Swap Frog. At this point, you can go into Treeborn and then do it again for the other Treeborn, do it again. For the last remaining monster, our Swap Frog, we don't really have anything else we want to send, but you could send an additional monster if you ran Unifrog or something and you didn't want to draw it. Then you tribute into your Dupe Frog, and lastly, you tribute the Substitute into a second Dupe Frog. Dupe Frog's effect says that if your opponent is going to attack, they have to attack Dupe Frog, and if you have 2, because of how paradoxes work in Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically, they're not allowed to attack at all. If you end up drawing one of these, and I mentioned that in the deck profile video, you could also just end on this. So Substitute's other effect that doesn't really come up super often says that frog monsters you control can't be destroyed by battle. So basically, if you have Dupe Frog in this, ideally you want this in defense mode just in case, but you know, if you drew the other Dupe Frog and you're doing this like, you know, turn 1 or whatever, you can have Dupe Frog who says you can only attack it, and Substitute makes that unable to be destroyed by battle. So it's kind of a complete battle lock. Then one of the other things that you can do with the deck, and maybe this is a little unintuitive, but if you have a Swap Frog in the graveyard, let's say our graveyard's over here, we summon Junk Synchron. So Junk Synchron targets 1 level 2 or lower monster in the graveyard, brings it back, and it negates its effect. However, it doesn't negate its cost. So if you summon Junk Synchron and bring back Swap Frog, one of Swap Frog's other effects is that you can bounce a monster you control to the hand, and as long as it can go to the hand, so you can't bounce like an absolute zero or something, but as long as it can go to the hand, you can normal summon an additional frog this turn except Swap Frog. Now the relevant part of that is you can, if you're trying to block attacks, for example, you can, during your standby phase, bring back your Treeborn Frog, right? You can summon Junk Synchron, special summoning your Swap Frog, and you can use Swap Frog's effect to bounce the Junk Synchron to your hand for cost. Its effect is actually negated, and they kill these two, and the next turn you kind of just do it all again. It's basically free summoning. In addition, you can use Junk Synchron similarly as your normal summon to recycle monarchs. So if the previous turn you have tributed for a Ryza, let's say, you bring back Treeborn Tribute for Ryza, they can't out it, right? Then on your turn, you can either summon your Swap Frog via special summon through its effect, normal summon it, bring it back with your Junk Synchron, but you can summon Swap Frog and bounce the Ryza back to your hand for the additional summon of a frog that you never have to do. So ostensibly, if you tributed for a Ryza the previous turn, right, you have Ryza, you want to use Ryza again. You can discard a water monster from your hand to special summon Swap Frog. Now you have not used your normal summon. You can use Swap Frog's effect to bounce the Ryza back to your hand for an additional normal summon of a frog, which we're never going to use. And then you can tribute the Swap Frog for that Ryza again, targeting another card. It's the reason why we only run 5 monarchs and a lot of decks only run 4. Alright guys, well that was Hero Frogs. I think this is probably one of the best Absolute Zero decks in the format. It's really easy to pick up and play. We're actually teaching a couple people how to kind of get competitive into Edison with this deck. It's easy to play, difficult to master. It has a lot of cool combos, very resilient to a lot of things. Game 1, that is. Once you get into games 2 and 3, it's a little bit of a struggle, but I think it's a really fun deck, probably the best Absolute Zero deck in the game, and Dupe Block's pretty cool. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next video.